Hey everybody, I'm Jesse, and welcome to another edition of Gen X Thinks. And today I'm going to talk about simpler times, back in the 70s and 80s. Back then, we had technology, and I think we had just enough technology, right? It wasn't so convoluted and aggravating as it is today. Not to say that Gen X can't get along with this technology. I mean, we're at the forefront of a lot of this stuff. But just the direction it's taken is aggravating as hell sometimes. Like the fact that I'm constantly faced with the irony of proving to a computer that I'm not a robot. I mean, how that's the future, that's the future I've been given, constantly being asked by a computer whether or not I'm the robot in this fleeting relationship, in this interaction. I'm the one who has to prove I'm not a robot. It really makes me yearn for simpler times, and I don't think I'm alone in that. I think there are a lot of people who look back on the 70s and 80s with fondness, and we miss the 70s and 80s, right? And it's not just technology. I mean, think about across the board with all kinds of different things, this whole LGBTQ plus thing, right? I mean, back in the day when I was a kid, 70s and 80s, a teenager, you were either gay or you were straight, okay? Now, with this LGBTQ plus thing, I mean, they had to just add a plus onto it so anybody could say they were anything, I'm a dinosaur or a rabbit or whatever. And that's just confusing. It's adding layers of complexity to something that was just simple. It was simple back in the day. We were gay or straight, and everybody was cool with it. If you were gay, okay, fine. If you're straight, okay, fine. Whatever. All right? Most people anyway. But nowadays, it's just this mishmash of whatever, and nobody knows what they are anymore, the younger generations anyway. They're all confused, and they're confusing everyone else with this bullshit. So, it's just a pain in the ass. It's difficult to keep up with. Not that I try, but I don't, they can be frogs or grasshoppers or whatever the hell they want to be. I don't give a shit. But, why? Why all the complexity? Why all the bullshit? Why? I don't understand the why of it, And back in the 70s and 80s, when you bought something, you owned it. All of this digital bullshit now. And that tails into this whole thing with the end user license agreement, right? We're just licensing this shit for temporary purposes. We don't own any of this digital shit we bought. We think we own it, but we didn't read the end user license agreement because nobody does, because they make the thing, 5 miles long to prevent you from reading it. So in actuality, we don't own anything anymore. I learned that through Audible. I thought I owned those Audible books that I had purchased, but ended up that once I canceled my subscription, I didn't own them. Amazon would not allow me to download them anymore. Same thing with the Kindle and all that. You don't own any of that shit. We don't own it. So I actually walked away from about $400 worth of Audible books and started another subscription with a different company, Libro FM. But all that takes, that's not permanent. If Amazon buys Libro FM sometime in the future, then they'll just put out a new end user license agreement and all my shit vanishes. So we don't own anything anymore. Nothing digital anyway. And I'm sure that, they're going to try to figure out how we are just leasing the physical items we have now too. Just like with land. We used to own land, but now land taxes basically have us leasing everything, right? We're just leasing it from the government. We never truly own it. So, back in the day, we owned things and it was simple. You paid for it. You took it home. It was yours. And if someone took it from you, that was stealing. Nowadays, that is just a convoluted mishmash of user license agreements and all other kinds of bullshit. Try to figure it out if you want to. You could probably spend a month just reading end user license agreements 8 hours a day of all the stuff you think you own. And parents back then, they didn't have to worry about us, being on the internet, talking to some pervert on the internet when we were kids. They didn't have to worry about any of that shit. If we were in our rooms, we were perfectly safe. Nothing could harm us. No one could contact us unless they called, the house, and one of your parents would most likely answer. So parenting back then was basically on easy mode, right? They didn't give a shit about us when we were running around outside. They, just completely forgot we existed. And when we were in our rooms, they sure as hell didn't worry about us. So that whole era back then, we had a lot of freedom, a lot more freedom, because there was, less risk of contacting people or people contacting us. Zero risk, actually. I mean, even if we were on our bikes and some weird guy in a van pulled up, all you had to do was ride away on your bike. Yeah, it was just simpler back then. The whole thing with the internet and the pervs and the porn and all this stuff that's going on now, it just adds complexity and confusion to everything. You got to worry about all kinds of, good parents anyway, have to worry about all kinds of shit that their children are getting into. So yeah, it's just a pain in the ass because of the internet. Just raising kids has become a freaking pain in the ass nowadays. And back then, when we were on the phone, we didn't have to worry about or wonder whether we were talking to a human being and whether our conversations being recorded and all this shit. And we didn't have to worry about whether we're talking to a human being on, nowadays, social media. You don't know whether you're talking to a human being online at all ever anymore, right? Back then, you were talking to someone on the phone or face to face. Those were basically the only two ways you could talk to people. You knew it was a human being. I mean, even in the late 90s and early 2000s and stuff, in those chat rooms, that there was another human being on that keyboard typing to you. Nowadays, we don't know. It's just a gray area of confusion and AI. And now we even have to compete against AI for jobs, right? Back then, you were just competing against another human. All you had to do was be a harder worker or a better employee than a human being, than the next human being. Nowadays, we've got to compete against AI, and pretty soon we're going to be competing against robots. So yeah, how is a human being, a normal average human being, supposed to face this? It's just another layer of complexity, another layer of difficulty for life. All right. But these huge companies are making billions of dollars. So, that's the way it's going to go. If it was, you or me making billions of dollars, if it was the taxpayers making billions of dollars, getting billions of dollars in refunds and shit, spread across all of our, our refund checks, then they put a screeching halt to that shit. But since it's, big corporations and CEOs and federal government employees or elected officials and that, they're raking in the cash, so it's gonna continue on. And just in general, life has become so much more complicated in this day and age. And it's complicated. It's a weird duality, right? It's more convenient and more complex at the same time. We've traded off a lot of simplicity for convenience. So now everything is so much more complicated. It's difficult to do damn near anything. You try to sign in, you got to remember. We used to have to remember one phone number or, maybe 5 phone numbers of your friends or whatever, but you had to remember your home phone number. And nowadays we've got to remember passwords and all this shit and user sign-ins and, all this different bullshit. It's just so much that you have to face on a daily basis. And I'm not talking about physically hard. It's really difficult and hard. No, it's just complicated. It's just exhausting, mentally exhausting, wading through all this mental bullshit day after day, and it just keeps getting more and more complicated. It never seems to streamline, and they make it easier. Never. It always gets more complex. Now you've got, dual sign in, where you've got to sign in and then they send you an email or they text your phone and you've got to sign in again and verify it's you and all this other bullshit. Everything is just layer upon layer of complexity and aggravation, and I don't like it. I just don't like it. It's stupid. I understand that, that we don't want to have our accounts hacked and all this shit, but we didn't need those accounts in the first place. We got along just fine without Twitter and Facebook or X now, and Facebook and Instagram and all this bullshit. We didn't need all this social media for, millennia. Humankind has gotten along without this shit. Now, it's a lot of the population is addicted to all these different social media sites, and that's just more complexity. People can just intrude on your life, and your phone can just, send you notifications constantly if you allow it, which I guarantee you I do not. I turn every notification off on my phone. My phone is silent. I don't put it on silent mode. Just if I download an app or something and I turn the notifications off on that bitch. Everything except the phone app, that's the only one that's allowed to send me notifications. So I do that to keep my life simple, to keep down the complexity. If I want to look on Facebook or whatever stupid ass app I want to look on, I'll look on it when I choose. I'm not going to let it keep aggravating me until I look at it, but those companies know that, and that's why they keep doing that. So they want your attention. They want your time. That's how they make their money with their advertising and shit. So, but I just don't allow that shit to penetrate into my life. So I'm with y'all in yearning for the days past and the simpler times, back when our car was just, you put a key in it and you started it and you drove around and that was it. You picked up a phone and called somebody and talked to them and that was it. You went outside and played and that was it. You put a disc into a computer and you played your game and that was it. Or you signed online and got in a chat room and chatted with people and that was it. Or, it was just so much simpler. You didn't have your computer constantly bugging you to prove that you're a human being. You didn't have your phone and your computer constantly bugging you to prove that you are who you say you are. All this bullshit. It was just simpler times, and I miss the simplicity so much. If there's anything I miss the most, the music, the movies, everything that was so great about the 80s, I miss the simplicity. And I'll leave you there with that. If you enjoyed this episode, please like, subscribe, and comment. If you'd like to support the channel by becoming a member, I'll leave that link down in the description, or you can head over to the channel page and become a member that way. If you'd like to support the channel directly, you can do so by clicking on that super thanks button down there. Or you can head over to Buy Me a Coffee and buy me a cup of coffee. I appreciate those of you who do that, and I'll leave that link down in the description as well. If you're interested in Gen X gear, we got some pretty cool stuff over there at Redbubble, Gen X Thinks and Gen X branded stuff. I just put a new hat up there, says question everything. I'm going to have to order one myself here pretty quick. But I'll put that link down in the description for any of you who are interested. If you can't or don't want to support the channel in any of those ways, you can always do so by sharing these videos on your social media. That helps out a hell of a lot. I sincerely appreciate it, so thank you very much to those of you who do that. And if you have any ideas for future episodes of Gen X Thinks, please put those down in the comments. Or you can email us, and the email is genxthinks@gmail.com. And as always, Stay frosty, Gen X, and I'll see you on the next one.